Okay. The matzav, many of the ideas that I'm going to share tonight, my own ideas, my own thoughts that I have heard from other great rabbis, and thoughts that I think are on many of our minds. The matzav, the situation that we're in right now, is a situation of turmoil. Every single day, and I know that in America it's true this way, and I can tell you in Eretz Yisrael, no matter what they're telling you on the news, every single day the matzav gets worse. There are in our neighborhood now many people who have come down with the virus, many people that have been quarantined. I'm going to say in our neighborhood, not just in Modi'in, the city, but literally in my neighborhood, the shul, the other shul where we don't daven. Many people are now. The Rav himself is has the virus, and many people are in quarantine. The shuls are closing down, just like in America. They are holding on for a little bit longer, another couple of days, as long as they can. But the matzav is, the situation is crazy. Every single day, it gets crazier and crazier, and it feels like a sense of like turmoil. There is talk now of doing Italy here, and that people are not going to be allowed out of their houses. This is sort of like brand new information, and it probably is going to happen in the next couple of days. Tonight, I brought a niece of mine to Ben Gurion Airport, and all of the yeshiva students and the seminary students, they were piling onto planes. They were chartering planes, and it was just pandemonium of people trying to run from the country. Though I'm not sure exactly where they're going to, and if it's any better. But we have a very strong sense that nothing is clear what's happening to us, and we're spending a lot of time tracking where the virus is. We're spending a lot of time worrying about what's happening, who's got it, what the rest of us have to do. We're spending a lot of time on hand washing, a lot of time on all of the things which are critical. But perhaps for 35, 40 minutes, we need to shift gears a little bit. And let's not focus on what's happening. Let's focus on what it means to us. You know, for so many people, Pesach plans are gone. There are weddings that are meant to happen. I don't know how many of you have seen these. Very beautiful and emotional videos of weddings that have been taking place in Eretz Yisrael, where you can't have more than 10 people gathered. There was a beautiful, stunning wedding in Mekaz Arav, where you couldn't gather more than 10 people. So on every merpeset, there was 10 guys. There was hundreds of them, but they were in groups of 10, and the bride and the groom walk in, and the place erupts. The simcha was incredible. But it's not what any bride had in mind, what her wedding was going to look like. It's not what anybody thought was going to happen. People have to say Kaddish. They can't go to shul. People with a yard site can't go to shul. Everything that we know as normal is turned upside down. Chazal tell us something very, very important. Chazal tell us in the Gemara in Yevamos that Ein Piranius Bala Olam Ela B'Shvil Yisrael. That things don't happen in the world other than to give a message to the Jewish people. And many people have a very difficult time with such a concept. Many people look at it and say, what's the matter with us Jews? Do we really think that everything is about us? And that there's a virus in China and God's sending a message to the Jewish people? There's a tsunami somewhere, and that's a message to the Jewish people. Everything is about the Jewish people. And the Talmud tells us that Ein Puranias Bala Olam, that these things, punishments, difficult things, trials and tribulations don't happen to the world.
Because it's depressing.
Yisrael, but to send us a message.
For a little bit, I wanted to get a feel of it, and then I'll switch on.
I ask again, if you have not muted your computers, if you've not muted your screens, please be careful not to talk, because everybody can hear it. The Chavetz Chaim was talking with a person who found out that there was a tsunami in China. And he told the Chavetz Chaim about the tsunami, and he told him that 500,000 people died. And the Chavetz Chaim burst out into tears. And he started shouting, Medaf Tshuvaton. We have to do tshuva. The Rebbeinu Shalom is talking to us. We have to do tshuva. So the fellow says to him, what are you talking about? Rabbi, it's a tsunami in China. There's no shaykhus. It has no connection to the Jewish people. It has no connection to us. What are you saying? And the Chavetz Chaim turns to the fellow and he says to him, imagine that you're in a foreign country and a person stands up and he starts to speak Yiddish. Would you have a presumption, would you even think, would you have a havamin, a thought that he's speaking to the people of that country? Of course he's not speaking to them. He's only speaking to the people that understand Yiddish, so that they should understand what he's saying and they should spread the word around to everybody else. When a tsunami happens in China, says the Chavetz Chaim, God is talking in Yiddish. Everything that's happening is happening from God, and a God is speaking to us. And he's speaking to us in Yiddish. He's talking to the Jewish people so that the Jewish people wakes up and understands that God is sending them a message. And that God is speaking to the world. And he's speaking first to his children, and his children are meant to share that message with the rest of the world. The Novi Tzifanya, when he talks about piranhas, when he talks about suffering coming to the world, which Rashi says that you should get a panic when that happens. He says, Sheyasu tshuva, so that we wake up and that we learn the valuable lessons. And the pasuk says, Hichrati goyim, I have cut off the nations. Noshmu panoison, the towers have become desolate. Hecharafti chutzaisam, I've destroyed their streets. Nibli oiver, they're empty. No one's there. They're in quarantine. No one's allowed on their streets. This is the Navi Tzefanya. Notetzu areya mibli ishmei and yoshev, their cities have become desolate. There is no man, there is no inhabitant. Says the Navi Tzefanya that God says, I will make such a magefa, I will make such a disease, I will make such a plague, that nobody will be in the streets, nobody will be around. And says the Drashas Haran, that the piranhas, that these things that happen are a hasra, they're a warning. That God is sending a message to his people. God's speaking to his people. And if we don't get the message, then it gets closer and closer to us. It starts in China. And then it moves closer and closer and starts to hit our community. And if we're not recognizing that it's coming from God, if all we can focus on is washing our hands and buying another bottle of Purell, so then we're not getting the message. If Beryl Wine said over a beautiful mashal, he said, the wise men of Chelm, everybody knows those stories of these foolish people in Chelm who they called the wise men of Chelm. They once had a problem that in the hospital, there was a hole in front of the hospital. So they had a town meeting. They all sat there and tried to figure out, what should we do with that hole? What should we do with this? Every time a person comes to the hospital, they fall into the hole. And they deliberated and they voted and they finally decided that what they would do is that they would move the hospital so that this way nobody would fall into the hole. Chachamim, fill the hole. The Ribbon Shalom is talking to his world. He's talking in Yiddish. He's talking to us so that we get a message, so that we get a little bit of a readjustment, and that we fill in the hole. But what is that message? Those of you that know me and that know me well know that whenever something happens in the world, I will never go to the place of that's happening because of this. There are too many thises to say that that's the reason why it's happening. But we don't need to do that. In order to be able to fill the hole, all I need to do is to be able to listen and to learn. There are lessons, there are a myriad of lessons that I have to learn from this that can enrich my life, that can lift me up, that can give me a chiyus, that can give me a new perspective on the life that I've been leading. And that would mean that I'm listening to God. It's not happening because I did this or because you did that or because we did something. God's got his plan. But from his plan and from what he does, there are things that I can learn. There are ways that I can grow. And that's what I need to figure out. And I think first and foremost of all the lessons that we need to learn is the recognition that I'm not in control. Mm-hmm. I look at this screen and I see many of us who have our own issues, our own problems, our own lives, our own difficulties in life. And we learn that. We learn that we're not in control. We don't control anything. Life is going in a certain direction, and all of a sudden one day it changes and it turns around. But as a nation, as a people, we need to realize that we live with a sense of kochi v'otzem yadi. We live with a sense of our power, of our might. We live with a sense that we're in control. I had the next 5 weeks, the next 2 months planned out. I could have told you what I was going to do every single day. I was coming to America. My children were coming for Pesach. I was coming back to America. I knew what I was going to do every day. I'm learning. I have a schedule. And the Rebbeinu Shalom taps me on the shoulder and he says, "Really? Oh, really? You're coming where? When? Pesach, you're having who?" Not going to happen, sweetheart, because you're not in control. You don't run this. You're not the one who is controlling and doing.
Yes, he is. That's the point. He's being
Pesach, the entire concept of Pesach was that God could teach us, Ani Hashem Elokecha, that I am the Lord your God and that I am in control.
I'm audio only.
And sometimes we need
Yes.
a very strong reminder. Chayenu hamesurim biyodecha. Our hands, our lives are in the hands of God. And that at the end of the day, it's God that's in control.
Jamin. There's a bunch of people on here.
That's number one. The second lesson. We should all think of the way that we've been processing this. We're saying to ourselves, I need to stay out of a crowd because I don't want to catch it. I need to wash my hands because I don't want to catch it. How many of us have stopped to think, I don't want to go there because God forbid that I should give it to anyone. God forbid that I should harm another person. We're so focused on us, on what we're going through, so focused on our fear that I don't want to contract this. I don't want this to happen to me. Can you imagine what it would be like if we could flip that? I know somebody who said to me, I can't go to shul. I said, why can't you go to shul? He said, because I don't know if I'm a carrier. I could be carrying this thing. How could I possibly put another person's life in danger? The Rebbeinu Shalom wants us perhaps just for a minute to stop thinking about ourselves and to train that outwards. You know, part of that is, I've heard so many rabbis say about the pain that they feel that their shuls are closed. Did we ever stop and consider the pain that the Reassess is in, that God is in, that God is looking at empty shuls, that God is looking at his people, and that they can't go to shul? Why is it always about me? Why can't I step outside of myself and look at what others are going through? Look at what the Ribbonu Shel Olam is going through. Third thing, a lesson, a message. The Yiddish that God's speaking to us. Isolation is a frightening thing. It's antithetical to our very existence. We have an incredible halacha. When a woman menstruates, she becomes prohibited to her husband. Marital relations are prohibited. Husband and wife separate from each other for 2 weeks until she goes to the mikvah. During those 2 weeks, there is an incredible challenge that a couple has. And the challenge is how to say I love you without physically conveying that message. How to be able to emotionally convey a love to another person without actually being able to touch them. And what's amazing is that it is much more sincere to say I love you without a physical expression of that love, because it has to come from a much deeper place. This past Shabbos, nobody was touching, nobody was shaking, nobody was hugging. I'm in a shul where everybody's a bunch of huggers. They're Ashkenazim too, but they're a bunch of huggers. Everybody hugs, everybody kisses, we dance on Shabbos. There's so much contact. But to watch people say good Shabbos to each other with their hands in their pockets and have to sincerely feel that sense of care and that sense of love for another person, that's an incredibly beautiful thing. I'm sitting here, I'm looking at your faces, those that I can see. And it's bringing me so much incredible joy. I haven't seen many of you in a long time. I don't mean just because I haven't seen you since Rosh Hashanah. I mean that I haven't been able to see you. But to be able to see you and to be able to look at your faces, it brings me such joy and a feeling of connection. And maybe that's something that we can get out of this. That's something that the Rebbe Shalom wants us to get from this, is to learn how to connect with each other when we can't actually connect with each other. When we can't sit physically in the same room, or we can feel like we're in the same room. We can still emotionally be connected. Maybe that's the language, that's the message, one of the messages that God's sending us. A fourth idea. It gives us an opportunity to be able to reach out to other people, to be able to worry about what they're going through. You know, I'm sure that many of you have thought this way. We're actually going to be doing this from the shul. But you know, there are people that are afraid to go to the supermarket, notwithstanding the fact they're not going to find much. But there are people that are afraid to go. They're not well, they're older. How about picking up a telephone and saying to somebody, I know you don't want me to do this, but I'm going shopping. Can I get food for you? What an incredible opportunity, again, to be able to step outside of ourselves and to be able to think of and to do something for other people. The bond, the achdus, the togetherness of the Jewish people can be something incredible. Maybe we haven't been so good. Maybe we haven't been so good at our achdus, at our sense of connection to each other. Forget about God punishing us, just giving us an opportunity to be able to flip that. What a healthy, beautiful way to look at it. Just an incredible opportunity to be able to turn that around. I'll tell you something else I see. You know, at what I'm looking at, most of you are taking this pretty seriously. But there's plenty of people that are figuring out, spending their days figuring out how to get around the system. You know, there's a video that's going around. In Israel, you can't have a group more than 10 people. In a supermarket, you can have 100. So a couple came up with a great idea. They needed to get married. They didn't want to just have 10 people. So they got married in Osher Ad in a supermarket. Kishmak, 100 people. We Jews are unbelievable. But you understand what they did? We're sitting and figuring out ways. How can you get around it? How can we pull shtick? I'm not pointing a finger at any community, but there are unfortunately plenty of people that, you know, we say, machtavek, mit the hand, you know, it's like, Perhaps this is teaching us something which we as Jews actually don't excel in, and that is being obedient. I'll tell you an incredible thing. When we went down to Egypt, there were two things that God wanted to teach us in Egypt, because there were two things that we were missing and that we needed to learn in Mitzrayim, that we needed to learn in Egypt. One was brotherhood, because we didn't really have a connection with our brothers. Look at the beginning of time. Cain and Abel, Abraham and his brothers, Isaac and Ishmael, Jacob and Esau, Yosef and his brothers, we didn't have a strong connection. We needed to feel a connection to our brethren. One of the things that God taught us when he brought us down to Egypt, one of the things, the yield of that experience was that we were able to get together with our brothers. We were able to become connected with our brothers. It taught us a concept of brotherhood, of achdus. But there was a second thing that we didn't have. Abraham was a giant. Abraham was called an Ivri, and Ivri means that he lived apart from everybody else. That means that the whole world was on one side and he was on the other side. The whole world believed in idols, Abraham believed in God. We look at Abraham and we say, what a giant. He was able to be Moser Nefesh. He was able to give up everything in order to be able to live a life dedicated to God. What an incredible human being. But you know what that does to the inside of a person? When you're always bucking the system? When the whole world is swimming one way and you're swimming against the stream? You know what that does to the psyche of a person? To the character of a person? We were missing that ability to be able to be machnia ourselves, to be able to bow ourselves, to be able to accept authority. One of the things that God needed to teach us through the suffering in Egypt was how to accept authority. It was then transferred over to God. But nevertheless, that was the lesson that we were taught. We're not a trusting people. Well, we say we trust our rabbis, we trust the Torah, we trust God, but in our lives, it doesn't really translate. We're always looking for ways around things. We're always looking, is it really true? Do I really have to do that? Do I really believe that? Now the Rebbeinu Shalom is teaching us in a very, very strong way to learn how to accept authority. The Misrad HaBriyut, the health department here, the health department in America, are saying, do this, do this. And we have to accept, you know what? It sounds a little wild, but if this is what they think is going to be the best thing for us, then this is going to be the best thing for us. And a certain sense of humility is being brought into our lives. A certain sense of an ability to be able to accept the authority of others, which ultimately will be translated over to God and accepting the authority of God. It's incredible that in the 1700s, Rabbi Akiva Eger writes in one of his responsa that there was a plague and the government had ordered the shuls to close down and not to gather in groups larger than 10 or 15 people, 1700s. And they had a whole protocol of what they had to do. And Rabbi Akiva Eger writes in his tshuva that we are obligated to listen to the government. Now, the government there was a hostile government. It wasn't comfortable. We are obligated to listen to the government to the extent that Rabbi Akiva Eger said that if there are going to be more people showing up to shul than the number that the government said was okay, he's going to ask the police to police this and to enforce the rules of the government. We Jews tend to think that these things, rules don't apply to us. There was a famous case in New York, a very, very, very wonderful Jew, a well-known Jew, got arrested on a Friday afternoon because he almost smacked the policeman. Why? Because he couldn't understand why a cop was giving him a ticket because he double parked in Brooklyn. For those of you that are not from Brooklyn, double parking means that the cars are parked on the side of the street and you park parallel to them, which means you are in the middle of the street which means no traffic can go past, and you leave your car there. But he was justified in leaving his car there. He had to buy challah for Shabbos, and it was late. He had no choice. And this is what he's arguing with the cop. He's saying to him, I don't understand why you're giving me a ticket. It's Erev Shabbos. He said, but you're not allowed to double park. No, he says, normally you can't, but on Erev Shabbos, you got to go and buy a challah. Of course you can. We Jews tend to think that way. We're above the law. Come on. That doesn't apply to us. Oh, yes, it does. And when we learn how to do that in our lives, then we can learn how to do that to God also. When we can learn obedience, when we can stop thinking that we have to buck authority, that we have to exercise our own rights and not listen to authority. When we can change that, then maybe we can change our relationship with the Master of the universe also. I'll tell you another idea. It causes us, this whole situation, to reassess what's really important. Coming to America was really important to me. Doing some certain things, having my kids come for Pesach was really important to me. But now you have to rethink that. Okay, I can't have it all the way I want it to be. But if that's really important to me, so then let me get that connection. Let me get what I wanted to get out of that situation. Let me find another way to get it. Because maybe that wasn't so important. And what's really important is staying alive. What's really important is becoming a better person. What's really important is davening and learning. So I can't have all the trappings and all the things that I want. It's okay. Plan B is also incredible. It's also great. And I have to reassess what I've been putting all my energy into and what I've been valuing. Maybe I need to rethink that a little bit. And finally, I think another very, very important yield from this whole situation is the realization that ein od milvado. There is no one other than God. And that we need to rely on Him. We need to trust in Him. And we need Him to hear our tefillos. We need Him to hear our prayers. Esther Amalka invites Haman to the party. You're a Jew in Shushan. You see the lady who you think is your Eli Cohen. She's your spy on the inside. She's going to be the one who's going to bring down the kingdom. She's going to be the one who's going to save you. And then you see her invite the enemy of the Jews, Haman, Adolf Hitler, Yemach Shemoy V'Zichrei, to her party. Our rabbis ask, why did Esther invite Haman? She could have told Achashverosh that Haman was trying to kill the Jews. She could have exposed him without him being there. She could have told on him. She could have got him killed. She could have got him hung. Everything could have happened. Why did she do that to invite Haman to the party? So I'll tell you an unbelievable idea. Because Esther knew that people were relying on her and that they had stopped praying to God. They thought it was a shoo-in. She was going to save them. Everything was great. She was their spy. She was the Jew in the White House. It was all going to be okay. And when they saw her invite Haman, they thought they couldn't trust her anymore. And now they turn to the master of the universe. Now they turn to God in prayer. We have to realize during these times, Ein od milvado, that there is nobody else but God. There is nobody else that is going to help us, nobody else that is going to protect us, nobody else that is going to save us other than the master of the universe. And he's waiting for us to daven to him. He's waiting for us to turn to him in prayer. He's waiting for us to call out to him. You know, when you go to shul, it's sort of easy. Everybody's davening, you sort of feel it. It's like there. But when you got to sit in your house and you're alone and you got to turn to God and say, God, Shema koilenu Hashem Elokeinu chutz v'rachem aleinu. Have a little mercy on your people. It's not so simple. But that's one of the things that we need to learn. One of the incredible things that we could take away from all of this, of the realization that we need at this time to turn and focus on God. When we turn to him in our prayers, when we lift ourselves up and we recognize that he's in fact in control of everything, and we daven to him as if we believe that he's in control of everything, that's when we become uplifted. That's when we start to learn the message of what's going on around us. And I just want to leave you with one very important thought. Ein yush ba'olam klal. We're not allowed to become despondent. In all of this, and it's not as crazy as it's going to be. It's going to get crazier. Our lives are going to turn further. They're going to turn around more. People close to us, God forbid, are going to be affected. Our parnassas could be affected. There is so much in our lives that are still just hanging in abeyance. But our job is to make sure that we recognize that this is a gezeras hamelech, this is a decree of the kings, and what he decrees and where he sends it is the way it's going to be. But for me, my job is to keep living. My job is to keep loving. My job is to keep purpose in my life. Davening, learning, reaching out to others, loving other people. Take myself out of the center of the world. Focus outside of myself. That's my job. I expect in the next couple of days, I'm going to be stuck in my house. I don't live in La Jolla. I got a couple 100 square feet. I have a nice place, but it's a couple of 100 square feet. It's not like I got an upstairs, downstairs, or I got a front of the house and a back of the house. It's like one thing. It's a little scary to think I'm going to be stuck inside of this thing. No, but look at the positive. Look at I get to spend time with my wife. I get to spend time davening and learning without distraction. Other than this, I get to spend time focusing, thinking. There are so many beautiful things. And that's what we have to focus on. I get an opportunity to figure out ways to reach out to others. All of that is positive. What the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't want from us is he doesn't want us walking around like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. Because there's too much good to be done. There's too much beauty, even in a crazy world, to let it slide by and pass by us. There are too many opportunities to live while we're still alive. I think that it's important for us to understand that God is calling out in Yiddish. He's talking to his Jewish people. And he wants us to be examples for the rest of the world. To show them what real community is. To show them what real relationships are. To show them how people of faith make it through a crisis. He's talking to us. He's not punishing us. He's not smacking us. He's teaching us how to look at the things that happen around us and to learn lessons from them, to grow from them, to become better people, to become stronger people, and ultimately to bring light into a very, very dark world. My bracha to each and every one of us, that we should be able to continue to smile. We should be able to continue to learn these lessons, apply them, and do beautiful things. Help others, daven for other people, make relationships with other people, phone calls, notes, letters, WhatsApps. Keep connected. And that ultimately, in the end, the whole world will come to recognize. I don't know how many of you saw. I should actually send this around to the shul. But the Pope told the world to keep Shabbos. Anybody see this video? The Pope was talking about the Jews and their Shabbos and how incredible the Jewish Shabbos is because they recognize and have a relationship with God. How Levi, it should happen soon, that the whole world should recognize Ein Oid Milvado. There is none other besides our God, besides the Master of the universe. We should know no more pain, no more tsar, no more troubles, no more suffering. Those that are sick should be healed. Those that are sad should be uplifted. Those that are mute and that can't pray should find that place inside of them to bring those prayers out. And together, we should be around to be able to greet Mashiach Tzidkenu. B'mehiro v'yomenu amen.
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 Amen. Kayak, Rabbi.
We'll stop here.
Kayak, Rabbi.
And it really is, it's like amazing, mamish amazing to see everybody.
Scott.
And what we're going to hear over the next couple of days, like I said, is we're going to try to get together, socially, not just with classes, but just on Zoom. Sit around like this with cameras, though. I see many of you don't have cameras. With cameras. In this way, I can sit. David and Claire, I see you. We can sit, we can schmooze, we can talk. Myself, Rabbi Reich. This way we can continue to build our community, continue to strengthen our community, which nobody can take away from us if we don't let them. Okay. Everybody should have a wonderful week. A beautiful Shabbos, if I don't see you before then. And we should only hear what we say, Besuros Tovos. We should only hear only beautiful news and only good news.
Amen.
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 Amen. Amen, amen.
By the way,
I know.
just so everybody should know, and it's not, you know that I'm not a statistic person, but it's just encouraging. There was about 100 people here tonight. Given the couples and the individuals, there was about 100 people here tonight.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
We're not alone. That's the key. We're not alone. This technology, imagine this happened 10 years ago. Imagine this happened 10 years ago. We wouldn't be able to do any of this. The technology, Baruch Hu put that technology in place, and then he gave us a little kick in the pants. But at least he gave us a way that we can find some kind of way, at least, to connect with each other.
Okay.
All right. And for those that are staying for Daf Yomi, I'm going to end the meeting and then I'm going to start it again. So click in again for Daf Yomi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Okay.
Thank you, Baba. Thank you.
I'm trying to look at every person.
Yes.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
That's amazing to see all you.
Thank you.
Oh,
So everything.
Kevin. You know, I don't, some of you might remember that there was a television program when we were kids called I think it was Romper Room. It's like a classroom, and the lady used to hold a magic wand at the end. She says, "Oh, and I see Bobby, and I see Johnny, and I see Mary." I feel like that. You know, I'm looking at
It's more like the Brady Bunch and
No,
the way
the
it's
Brady
in the
Bunch.
box.
But this is the Brady Bunch on steroids. And this is a couple of families together. Amazing. Amazing. Oh, Jim, that's good.
Father knows best.
Oh, there's Jack.
Yes. Hello, Stacy. Father knows best.
Hi, Ann.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
everybody.
Bye, Rabbi. Be well.
I'm ending the
Well,
meeting.
take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Good night.